This episode is brought to you by LifeLock. Between two-factor authentication, strong passwords, and a VPN, you try to be in control of how your info is protected. But many other places also have it, and they might not be as careful. That's why LifeLock monitors hundreds of millions of data points a second for threats. If your identity is stolen, they'll fix it, guaranteed, or your money back. Save up to 40% your first year. Visit lifelock.com/podcast for 40% off. Terms apply.
The strike is over, Philly, and now the cleanup begins. The District Council 33 strike, which will be known as the trash strike of 2025, lasted 8 days and led to a work stoppage that resulted in closed libraries, a shortage of 911 operators, and most noticeably, no residential trash pickup. Those piles of trash, dubbed Parker piles for Mayor Cherelle Parker, will now get picked up, eventually. And Parker herself was jubilant over the agreement.
We balanced valuing the men and women of District Council 33 for the hard and vital work that they perform with protecting the fiscal responsibility of this city and its stability. That's on us. To the men and women who show up for work every day to pick up our trash, staff our water treatment facilities, work on the front lines as emergency dispatchers for police and fire, and a wide range of other jobs and duties. I want you to know that we see you and we hear you.
I'm Matt Katz, executive producer of CityCast Philly, filling in for Trinae Nuri. It's Thursday, July 10th, and here's what everyone in Philly's talking about. We've got Abby Fritz, our producer, joining me to talk about this agreement that came in at 4 a.m. on Wednesday. Abby, you've been following this with the rest of us from the jump. So give us the details on the final agreement that Mayor Cherelle Parker made with the District Council 33 union that represents 9,000 city workers, including sanitation workers, people in the water department, street pavers, rec center and airport employees, 911 dispatchers. Tell us about the deal from what we know now.
Yeah, I should have known from the weather Tuesday night that something was going on, something was brewing, but it caught us by surprise on Wednesday morning.
It made it more dramatic to have thunderstorms as this announcement was made and the deal was finalized.
Exactly. They came to a tentative agreement. They are going to have a 3-year contract with 3% raises for every year. In this agreement, they also figured out a 5th step in the union pay scale. So that means more senior members are going to get a 2% raise on top of all this. And this also applies retroactively back to July 1st, which is when their original contract ended. I don't know how much this is going to help workers out since they weren't clocking in while on strike. And overall, this is going to cost $115 million over the course of the entire agreement for the city.
And this is technically tentative right now. The membership of DC 33 has to vote on this deal. And as we record this on Wednesday, that vote has not yet happened. But Abby, in the meantime, folks are back to work. So the question everyone really wants to know, first and foremost, when does the trash get picked up?
Not until Monday, Matt. We've got some time. It's going to be a little stinky still. But the mayor said if you can't hold on until Monday, bring your trash to sanitation centers. There's 6 of them across the city, and they extended hours from now through Friday from 6 a.m. to 10 p.m. They are asking, though, to hold off bringing any garbage to temporary trash locations, the ones people have been using
like the
throughout.
Dumpsters.
Yeah, the big dumpsters with all the trash next to them. You know the ones. They're not removing the dumpsters immediately.
Okay.
They're leaving them up throughout the end of the week because they know that not everybody is watching the mayor's press conference and is going to hear, that these sites are no longer in use. They're still going to be cleaning them out through the end of the week, but they want to get them out of the way as quickly as possible. And in kind of the post era of these temporary sites, they don't want people to continue to dump there illegally. They don't want, it to become just like a place trash piles up because it was once this temporary site. So they're going to be setting up cameras around all of the temporary locations, and they will be charging people $5,000 per piece of trash if you dump there illegally after these are cleaned up entirely. So
but won't the
don't do it.
dumpsters be gone, or
They'll
saying
be
that,
gone. Yeah.
but they're saying
I
that
think,
people will still like go to these, are accustomed to now throwing their trash at these sites?
I think they want to ensure communities that temporarily hosted these sites for the city that it's not just going to become like a place people throw trash.
Got it.
You know,
Got it.
I think it's a sign of respect to the communities.
Okay, so that's the trash. But what about the city pools that were closed during this work stoppage? About half of the city's 60 pools weren't open. Most libraries were closed. When will all of these other services be coming back online? Do we know that yet?
Yeah, so as of this recording, we haven't heard anything about the timeline about these services like libraries or even like nighttime hours for recreation centers, things like that. But we'll keep an eye out on it and we'll keep everybody updated once we know when those things are going to have normal service resuming. I did see at my local library, South Philly Library, they posted on their Instagram story that they're open. I'm sure a lot of other libraries are going to be open across the city as well. They also asked in this like Instagram story, they were like, please don't ask our workers about the strike. Everybody's kind of touchy-feely about it right now. So come in, give us some grace, give us some time to process kind of what's going on.
So how did this strike finally end? We'll talk about that after this.
Ryan Reynolds here from Mint Mobile. With the price of just about everything going up, we thought we'd bring our prices down. So to help us, we brought in a reverse auctioneer, which is apparently a thing.
Mint Mobile Unlimited Premium Wireless. How to get 30, 30, bit to get 30, bit to get 20, 20, 20, bit to get 20, 20, bit to get 15, 15, 15, 15, just $15 a month? Sold! Give it a try at mintmobile.com/switch.
Upfront payment of $45 for 3-month plan, equivalent to $15 per month required. New customer offer for first 3 months only. Speed slow after 35 gigabytes if network's busy. Taxes and fees extra. See mintmobile.com.
I'm always looking for ways to show my cat how much I love her. And with Fancy Feast gems, I can pamper her whenever I want with a savory gravy on top of a gourmet mousse pâté. The pyramid shape makes serving simple, so all I have to do is peel and plate to make mealtime feel extra fancy. And with 2 entrees in every pack, it's easy to turn every day into the extraordinary. Fancy Feast gems.
The most surprising thing for me, Abby, in terms of how this ended finally, is the DC 33 union didn't seem happy about it. They did not seem like they got the agreement that they were hoping for, and yet they did agree to this. The leadership did. Greg Boulware, the president of DC 33, was leaving the negotiating table. It was still the dark of night, and he said this to keep TV cameras as he walked away. He said that unfortunately, quote, unfortunately, a deal has been reached. And here's a brief clip from Greg Boulware.
There's a deal been reached, unfortunately.
Unfortunately, tell us why unfortunately. Why you use that word?
Because I'm not happy or satisfied with the outcome of things.
So Abby, he's not happy or satisfied with the outcome. What was the outcome as far as we know at this point?
Yeah, it doesn't really seem like DC 33 got many of the demands met. And honestly, the 3% raise was just a smidge up from what the city was originally offering, which is 2.75% raise in the first year and then 3% raises 2 years after that. So, I mean, they only came up 0.25% for 1 year.
And DC 33 wanted 5%.
They wanted 5% every year. And even earlier, in the strike, they were saying 8% at one point.
Yeah, right. That was the initial.
So they definitely, made a bigger compromise here in terms of that. So the average wage goes from $46K to $47,000. Also, DC 33 was asking for increase in healthcare benefits, which the city actually kind of wanted to backtrack on those. And they ended up just remaining the same. So the city was contributing $1,500 per employee per month, and the union wanted that to increase to $1,700. It's just remaining the same now. So that didn't, get changed at all. And then also the union was hoping for the residency rule to be changed. So right now, DC 33 members, there's residency rules that keep them living in the city. And they wanted to be able to move out of the city after 10 years in the union. That was also not in the contract. So they didn't really get anything that they were asking for, it seems like.
And the Inquirer did the math. The agreement increases wages about $8,500 over the course of the 3-year contract. But remember, they didn't get paid over these 8 days. So they lost an average of $1,458 per worker. And then that results in workers actually earning less this year compared with the previous contract. And workers, according to the Inquirer, would have actually made more under Parker's previous proposal, the one that was rejected, than under the tentative agreement because of these 8 days of lost pay. So if they had agreed to her prior offer before July 1st, they would have actually brought home more money this year. I mean, you know, Cherelle Parker, the mayor, certainly made it out to seem like she was very generous in the end here. It really kind of depends how you slice and dice these numbers. It was, she said that the workers are getting a 14% increase in wages over the 4 years of her term. So that includes the 1 year contract that expired June 30th, and then the next 3 years. And then she added up the percentages. So that sounds pretty good. But if you look at like what it costs to live in this city and how those costs increase every year, it's unclear if workers' bottom line is really going to be helped by the terms of this agreement.
Yeah, the U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics says that 3.3% is the average increase for compensation costs for private industry workers as of this month in Philadelphia. So that doesn't even hit that mark right there.
So why did they agree to this? Why did DC 33 agree to this if they didn't get so much of what they wanted?
Yeah, it seems like DC 33 didn't feel like they had leverage anymore. I think when the strike started, it was right before the 4th of July, all those celebrations, and the city started issuing injunctions on certain workers throughout the strike. So, like, for example, they issued an injunction that called back police and airport dispatchers. And essentially, it seems like the longer the strike goes on, the more opportunity for injunctions to pass through the court system, and which basically means workers have to go back to work.
Yeah.
They can't strike anymore. And that's the union's biggest leverage here, is taking away their workers and that labor. And in the public sector in particular, it's a lot harder for workers to be off the job for extended periods of time without being at risk of having injunctions placed on them.
Yeah, like you said, the city had won injunctions from the court over the 8 days of the strike to get most of the 911 dispatchers back to work, to get water department employees back to work, saying that having them off threatened public safety. And certainly the city could have gone back to court to make that argument. I guess that was either the explicit or subtle threat that might have been at that bargaining table.
Totally. And I think the union kind of saw that writing on the wall and said, you know what, we gotta call it. And that's actually how the last city municipal worker strike ended in 1986. Sanitation workers were ordered back to avoid a public health crisis. So seems like that's what will end these types of negotiations in our current legal system.
Mm-hmm. And we'll be back tomorrow with more analysis and news related to the strike. But it's going to take some time for the city to digest what has happened here in July of 2025. I mean, You saw protesters dropping trash at City Hall and getting arrested. We had a hit and run incident where 2 striking workers were hit on a picket line by an apparently drunk driver. There were fires in at least 2 of those city dumping sites until a court order, as I mentioned, ordered them back to work. Our city's 911 call center was severely understaffed for a couple of days. The Wawa Welcome America July 4th concert, one of the biggest events of the year, was basically a bust. Headliners LL Cool J and Philly native Jasmine Sullivan, they canceled their performances in solidarity with striking city workers. So it's been an 8 days, Abby.
Yeah, so much has gone on. And like you mentioned earlier, Matt, this isn't a done deal. It still has to be ratified, which usually happens. You know, it's more symbolic usually than anything else. But DC 33 membership, I think people are not happy about this. So we'll see if something comes up in the next few days as that ratification process goes forward.
Thanks, Abby. We'll be talking more about this for some time, I think.
Yep, I'll be back tomorrow.
That's all for today here on CityCast Philly. If you appreciated this episode, please tell a friend who lives in Philly and might be wondering what's going on with the strike, and hit that subscribe button. Be sure to sign up for our morning newsletter, Hey Philly, to learn the latest on the strike and everything else going on in Philly. We'll be back tomorrow with more news from around the city. So long.